Good morning. Welcome to Newburgh United Methodist Church. Our music today, to start off, is Give Me Your Eyes. Our whole message today is about community and coming together from being broken to being something whole. Look down from a broken sky, traced out by the city lights. My world from a mile high, best seat in the house tonight. Touch down on the cold black top, hold on for the sudden stop. Breathe in the familiar shock of confusion and chaos. All those people going somewhere. Why have I never cared? Give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see everything that I keep missing. Give me your love for humanity. Give me your arms for the broken-hearted, the ones that are far beyond my reach. Give me your heart for the ones forgotten. Give me your eyes so I can see. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Step out on the busy street, see a girl and our eyes meet. Does her best to smile at me, to hide what's underneath. There's a man just to her right, black suit and a bright red tie. Too ashamed to tell his word, he's out of work, he's buying time. All those people going somewhere. Why have I never cared? Give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see everything that I keep missing. Give me your love for humanity. Give me your arms for the broken-hearted, the ones that are far beyond my reach. Give me your heart for the ones forgotten. Give me your eyes so I can see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been here a million times, a couple of million nights, just moving past me by. I swear that I never thought that I was wrong. Well, I want a second glance, so give me a second chance to see the way you've seen the people all along. Give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see everything that I keep missing. Give me your love for humanity. Give me your arms for the broken-hearted, the ones that are far beyond my reach. Give me your heart for the ones forgotten. Give me your eyes so I can see. Give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see everything that I keep missing. Give me your love for humanity. Give me your arms for the broken-hearted, the ones that are far beyond my reach. Give me your heart for the ones forgotten. Give me your eyes so I can see. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Give me your eyes is the call from that song. Asking for God's eyes that we might see the world as God does and also focus on the community that we have lost. So we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. I echo Griffin by saying good morning and welcome to Newburgh United Methodist Church on this second Sunday of Lent. And we are thrilled to have you here with us this morning as we journey together on this series of Holy Vessels, a Lenten journey of discovery. and recovery, both. So we look forward to this continuing journey and thankful to have each and every one of you with us today. And I have to admit this week, it is feel as if our spirits have been lifted. Have you felt that too? Meaning that when the temperature goes from 45 degrees higher from where it was a week ago, that big ball in the sky that we knew as the sun actually comes out, begins to warm us. It begins to lift our spirits. That's very real. And I'm very thankful for that this week. And I'm hoping that you're feeling that lifted experience and that it's palpable for you. So as we continue in this service today, we have a lot to be thankful for, but also a lot to be praying for and about. I was asked recently, in regards to Sunday morning, we're about to go to our time of prayer, and I was asked, when we come back from prayer, there are candles that are lit, and that's correct. I light those. And I was asked, am I just lighting those to kind of give us an ambiance, or do those represent something? I'm thrilled for that question. Each candle that I light represents a real prayer that I've encountered throughout this week. Real people, real circumstances. I'll be lighting a candle every week for all of those that have died from COVID, the families that are dealing with that as a second candle, and then many individuals that have shared their prayers. As we go to prayer this morning, I invite you to light your candle if you haven't already and you have that candle available. And I want you to take a moment to think about those folks in your life, your community, that you would like to pray for, pray about. Those folks that you're hoping maybe are lifting you up in prayer. This is a very active moment where we encounter God. And so I invite you to get into a comfortable position and to begin to pray by allowing God to hear what is on your mind and your heart and your soul. As always, Haffa will play music during this time. I'll be lighting candles representing those prayers. And I invite you to truly experience this as quality time with God. Let us go to this time with God.
Vessels holy and whole, broken, needing the one, open, body and soul, healer come.
And now would you join me in the prayer that our Lord taught us to pray, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Well, thank you for that time, and I'm thankful to be joined by Pastor Suzanne this morning for our time of family connection. And I see you've brought something with you. You must be cold.
I brought a blanket, and I'm going to encourage everyone to find their favorite blanket. You might already have it with you, but find your favorite blanket and have it with you really quickly. Hopefully, it's somewhere in your living room, so I'm going to keep on talking. And if it's not, then you'll just miss just a little bit, and the blanket part doesn't come until later, so we're okay. So we have been not worshiping together for a long time now.
Yes.
And you might have forgotten what this space that we worship in is actually called. And so I wanted to remind you that the place that we worship in is called a sanctuary. And a sanctuary means a safe place. And that's really what church is meant to be, a safe place where we can bring to God in community with our friends and the people that come to this church, everything that we are, the truest versions of ourselves, all of our happy things, all of our sad things, all of our concerns, and we bring them all here, present them to God in community with one another. But we haven't been able to do that for a while.
No, we have not. Quite a while.
And I was thinking about some people who've experienced this and how our church has responded. So there have been some people in our congregation over the years who may have gotten sick or may have had to have surgery, and they haven't been able to worship with us. And we have this really neat ministry at our church. It's called our prayer shawl ministry. And what happens when someone is sick or in the hospital or is having surgery, if we know, we can give them a prayer shawl. And there's a card on it that says this, and I just want to read one part of it to you. It says, May God's strength, comfort, and peace surround you as you're wrapped in this shawl. So that blanket that you had, I wanted you to wrap it around yourself. And I want you to think about how it feels when we have our favorite blanket close to us. We feel safe. That's the thing I think there are some babies who get attached to even blankets.
Yes.
And we call it their security blanket. That means it's the thing that makes them feel safe. Well, I don't know about you, but I hope that you remember that your safety is not in a place or a thing. So while this blanket is beautiful and it has helped in the healing process of many people, and if you ever want to be involved in this ministry, you can reach out and let us know and we'll connect you. You can help make the blankets. You can pray over them. There's tons of ways that you can be involved with that ministry. But what I really want us to remember is that these things are just things that remind us of who God is. God is our safe place. God is the reason why we feel safe in community when we can gather. God is the reason why we feel safe outside of the community when we cannot gather. So I want you to remember that today, that our safety is in God.
That's wonderful. And I think it's good for all of us to remember to find tangible ways to remember that which is intangible. Mm-hmm. And I think for many of the adults today, I'd remind you of Charlie Brown and the Peanuts cartoon. Oh, yeah. Many would make fun of Linus for carrying his blanket everywhere, but that blanket brought him comfort, and we would take it the next step to say, it wasn't just the blanket, it was God and helping him to feel secure.
Absolutely. Let's pray together. God, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being our safe place.
Thank you for being our safe place.
Help us be
that
safe place for others.
That safe place for others.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Suzanne. And I'm glad you brought your blankie this morning. That's a good reminder for us. Now we come to our point of action this morning. And it's to remind you that as we look at ways to interact, as we did in prayer, there are many ways to interact with our community of faith without being present. And during this time where we share ways to do that, the first one I want to share is the tangible gift of our finances. And I want to remind you that there are a number of ways to give of those gifts if you have financial resources. The first way is to utilize your smartphone, and you can simply text Newburgh UMC to 77977. Text Newburgh UMC to 77977. You can also download our free app from the App Store and go to the giving portion of that, and it takes you through those steps. We can certainly receive mail-ins as well. And yes, the office is open every day from 8 until noon if you would like to drop something off. We are allowing people with masks to come into the building, to the office. So I want to remind you of that. But that's not the only way. Hopefully, the majority, if not all of you, received in the mail our mailing that we sent you for Faith Promise, which last Sunday we talked so much about Faith Promise. Thank you for so many that are sending those commitments and pledges in. It's quite remarkable. It's very exciting. We'll give you the results of that in the next week or two. But in addition to that, this coming April the 4th is Easter Sunday. And we alluded to in that mailing, and you'll see it in the newsletter. If you haven't received it, you should have received it certainly by now, but if not, let us know. You can get it online. But we have announced that on Easter Sunday, April the 4th, we will be gathering together. Yes, it's not a misprint or a misnomer. We will be gathering together at Friedman Park, which is just not far away from us on Oak Grove Road, and we will have directions for you. But we're going to gather there with the amphitheater. We also have the largest pavilion there in case the only thing that would prevent or cause us some challenges is a little rain. But we have this giant pavilion we can all get underneath. But we want to get you excited. We want you to have something to look forward to. We want you to have a goal to know that on April the 4th we can be together. But that's not all. As we prepare for that Sunday, we are putting together, or have put together, through our youth ministry and Pastor Linda, a way that we can raise funds for scholarships for our students, for camp, and for other youth and experiences as they continue to grow in their own lives. So to that end, starting in the first week of March, you will see a fundraiser advertised on our Facebook, our website, and our e-news. You're able to purchase T-shirts, long-sleeve T-shirts, and sweatshirts, and we will have them in children's sizes that you are invited to wear on that Easter Sunday. You don't have to, but it's going to have a very simple message that you can wear all year round. It's going to say Newburgh United Methodist Church, and our theme for Easter, a new beginning. Isn't that wonderful? A new beginning. And the new beginning is in so many ways connected. There's the rebirth of Christ, a new beginning. There's being able to come together after this long hiatus of not being together, a new beginning. There is the restart, if you will, and the renewal of our faith journey as we've gotten out of the habit or possibly away from it, a new beginning. So we want you to look for that and to be able to participate. And the money goes to a great cause, and they're really comfortable to wear as well, because we have purchased these for the youth and other areas of ministry in the church before. Well, those are ways that you can be actively involved, and we look forward to those ways. So please plan to find ways where you can be actively involved with our congregation. And now, I'm excited to invite Linda to join me this morning as we feature our person of faith and our person of color. Well, good morning, Linda. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. It's good to be here. Our last Sunday of February.
That's hard to believe, but it is already.
So our last Sunday of Black History Month. And today we're going to feature a man named Charles Albert Tindley.
Okay.
And he is good to know because he did a lot of things. You know, you can't just tell these people's story like, okay, this guy invented Post-it notes.
Yeah.
You know, no, they did so much, and they had such full lives that it is a story to tell when I talk about these. And I learned about this Charles Tindley originally because there's a children's book
Yes.
called By and By, and it's got beautiful illustrations in it, and some of the words of Charles Tinley. And I'll leave that here. I might share that with Pastor
just leave
Suzanne.
it right here. This is great. It's wonderful, and it is. It's got great
But
pictures, great
it's one
story.
of the ways I actually learned about it, because I heard about this book that had these beautiful illustrations in it, and so I picked it up and read it, and I was like, wow, this guy must have been something else.
Yeah,
so
he's the real deal. Real deal.
So I started digging in about his life and found out that he was born in 1850 in Maryland. His father was a slave, but his mother was free. So Charles was actually born free at that time. But unfortunately, at the age of 5, both his parents passed away. So he was an orphan and began to be raised by his aunts. And unfortunately, too, black children didn't go to school. There was no schools for them. And so instead of going to school like we would normally send kids to school, he was hired out to help along in the farmlands, with other servants and workers. And it was there that he heard spiritual songs. As they would work, they would sing songs of spiritual songs, and he'd hear the Bible stories in these spiritual songs, which sparked him at an early age to want to learn Bible stories. Well, you can't learn Bible stories if you can't read the Bible, is what he discovered, because he went to a church. They were allowed to go to church with the white folks. Of course, black people had to sit in the back or in the balcony.
They had their own section.
But he heard a pastor say to the children there, if anybody had read their Bible this week, you want to come forward. And all the white children come forward, and the black children get left out because they can't read. Well, this just set the fire in motion in his life to want to learn to read so he could read his Bible. And so it is said that he learned to read by collecting scraps of newspapers that he would find and learning to sound out the words. And he actually found a private tutor who helped him in the evenings after he was done with his farm work.
Okay.
So self-taught, learned how to read and write. And then at the age of 17, he moved to Philadelphia. That was kind of a time where there was a migration north of freed people post-Civil War.
Yeah.
And so a lot of African Americans were leaving the South and moving north, and so flocking to the cities to find work. And Charles was no exception, so he went to Philadelphia. Even though he was already living east, he needed a new life. And while he was there, he found work as a janitor.
Okay.
At, guess where? A church.
Church.
Yeah. A church, Calvary Methodist Episcopal Church in Philadelphia. And while he was there, he continued his spark to learn in general. So he was able to take night classes. And then he took correspondence courses from Boston University. So before there was online, you could do mail-in classes.
Whole different ballgame
yes.
there.
Pre-online classes, there was mail-in classes. So he did mail-in classes at Boston University and earned his degree that way. He also found out, as he was learning his Bible more and more, that the Old Testament was originally written in Hebrew. So on his own, he went to a Jewish synagogue and sought out a rabbi who would teach him Hebrew. And he began to learn Hebrew himself, just so he could understand even more the stories of the Bible.
Yeah.
Well, you can imagine where that would lead you to becoming a preacher. So he became an ordained Methodist minister, and he served churches along different areas in the East. I'm not sure how the conferences were broken down then. But finally, like 30 years later, he was appointed to Calvary Methodist Church back in Philadelphia, where he started as a janitor. He was appointed to that church. And while he was appointed to that church, the church started to grow. Originally, it grew like to 7,000 members. And the church was small, so he was having like 5 services so he could accommodate all the people. And then they built a larger building to accommodate more. And as they did that, the church voted to rename the building from Calvary Methodist to Tinley Temple Methodist Church.
okay.
So it's named after him. He did not ask for that.
Oh, sure.
But it was named after him. And then that church still exists today in Philadelphia, not too far from Richard Allen's church that we talked about several weeks ago, which is also in Philadelphia. But his church was considered a mixed-race church. He was known around town as the people's pastor or the people's preacher. And so there were whites that went to that church, Latinos, and even some Jewish people because of the connections he'd made with the Jewish community through learning Hebrew. Even some Jewish people would come just to hear Pastor Tinley preach. And it was quite amazing. They said one Easter service, like here, they had to rent out some type of large arena to accommodate all their congregation members, because even though they built the new church, it would still only hold 3,000 people.
Only 3,000.
And so, we think, so technically it was like one of the first mega churches.
Yes, it would be. Absolutely.
Unfortunately, what we read today is that it's greatly diminished in the area. I think it said in 2019 their average attendance was 83.
Yeah,
This happened to so many churches, but still a vital part of the community, because it wasn't just about Sunday morning services for Reverend Tinley. It was about serving the people 7 days a week. So they had, food, served meals, food pantry, clothing. They had education courses if you needed to learn. They had parenting courses. Anything to help the people in the community, because it was in a lower economic area of Philadelphia. What we really want to get to, though, like I said, he was very multifaceted.
Yes.
Faceted. So the other part made him popular with his preaching on Sunday morning was that he wrote his own music. And he believed that songs were a great way to learn the Bible story, not just preaching. And so he was known to always sing as part of his message time. Ended up writing 47 hymns, 5 of which are still in our Methodist hymnal that we have today. And a couple of them went on to birth contemporary songs. So number 512 that's still in our hymnal today is called Stand By Me. Became the inspiration for the pop song Stand By Me by Benny King.
Yeah.
If you want to sing it, I'll let you.
No, that's okay. I'll pass. Thanks.
Stand By Me. The other song that morphed into a well-known song was he wrote a hymn called I'll Overcome Someday. Well, you can guess that transformed in 1947 into the civil rights hymn, We Shall Overcome.
Powerful, yeah.
And that's all because of his songwriting. So he was known for preaching. He was known for just helping people in general, being a part of his community, well-loved. And he was known for his hymns that he shared with people so that they, too, could learn the Bible the way that he had learned the Bible.
And again, it's I think, hopefully you're not hearing that this is a self-made man. He was a motivated and a self-motivator, but once again, it's his faith experience that continued to drive him. And remembering and never forgetting his roots, all the way back to those days in the fields that exposed him to that music, he brought that back into the church and gave us that gift that we have today.
Right. So part of that gift we're going to close with today is Hoffa and Griffin. I've asked them to learn one of his hymns, which is number 522. Leave it there. And I think you might even have a cameo.
I'm going to
sing
sing with them. Absolutely.
So we close with sharing this song by Charles Tinley, and listen to the lyrics because it's really powerful.
If the world from you withhold of its silver and its gold, and you have to get along with meager fare, Just remember in His word how He feeds the little bird. Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Leave it there, leave it there. Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. If you trust and never doubt, He will surely bring you out. Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Leave it there, leave it there. Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. If you trust and never doubt, He will surely bring you out. Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Our scripture today is taken from the Gospel according to Matthew. And if you have been following last week and as we go through, you'll notice that we're meandering through Matthew, but not in a linear fashion. That's intentional, because the different passages that we're pulling out each have key points in regards to this journey, this Lenten journey of recovery. And so we're going to be in Matthew chapter 8. Specifically, we're talking again about community, the loss of community, and expanding our community. So here are these words from Matthew chapter 8, verses 5 through 13. When Jesus went to Capernaum, a centurion approached, pleading with him, "Lord, my servant is flat on his back at home, paralyzed, and his suffering is awful." Jesus responded, "I'll come and heal him." But the centurion replied, "Lord, I don't deserve to have you come under my roof. Just say the word and my servant will be healed. I'm a man under authority with soldiers under me. I say to one, go, and he goes. And to another, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and the servant does it." When Jesus heard this, he was impressed and said to the people following him, "I say to you with all seriousness that even in Israel I haven't found faith like this. I say to you that there are many who will come from the east and west and sit down to eat with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness. People there will be weeping and grinding their teeth." Jesus said to the centurion, "Go. It will be done for you just as you have believed." And his servant was healed at that very moment. May we be healed at the hearing of God's word. Our next song is one I personally love. The band loves it as well. And we hope that you will listen to the words again. It's titled, "If We Are the Body." It's a challenging song because the lyrics are simply saying, if we are the body, why aren't we doing more?
It's crowded in worship today as she slips in, trying to fade into the faces. The girls teasing, laughter is carrying farther than they know, farther than they know. But if we are the body, why heart is on preaching, why heart is hands healing, why heart is words teaching. And if we are the body, why heart is feet going, why is his love not showing them that there's a way, there is a way. Traveler is far away from home. He sheds his coat and quietly sinks into the back row. The weight of their judgmental glances tells him that his chances are better out on the road. But if we are the body, why on his arms reaching? Why on his hands healing? Why on his words teaching? And if we are the body, why on his feet going? Why is his love not showing them that there's a way? There is a way. Jesus paid much too high a price for us to pick and choose who should come. And we are the body of Christ. But if we are the body, why on his arms reaching? Why on his hands healing? Why on his words teaching? And if we are the body, why on his feet going? Why is his love not showing them that there's a way? And if we are the body, why on his arms reaching? Why on his hands healing? Why on his words teaching? And if we are the body, why on his feet going? Why is his love not showing them that there's a way? Jesus is the way.
Well, hopefully you can see why I love that song and the lyrics to it as well. So let's get into the reality of this passage today, and it's simply this. During this Lenten season of recovery, one of the things that we're trying to recover, because we don't just feel like we've lost it, is a sense of community. Community is that not just environment, but those people that most normally surround us, that we interact with, that we join with, and we've lost that sense of community for appropriate reasons. Being together endangers lives. Being together endangers our lives. Being together becomes an irresponsible experience when we not are just told, but we've discovered and we know that this virus kills people. And so we have not been able to commune together. As you know, during this pandemic, communion has been something that we are missing. And we started out with the small cups when we were able to gather in great distances, and we've invited people to do it at home at the same way, but it's not the same, and we realized we were losing the sacramental value and just trying to go through the motions. So we've got this lost sense of community, but that's not all. Let's talk about what our community is, and we're talking now about perception. For the majority of us by far, when we look at our own community, so I'm going to start with our community of family, our extended community of friends, and then into a larger community that goes beyond our church community and into the actual community. When we look at those that we interact with, most often, here's what we will find by no surprise. They tend to be people like us. They tend to be people that are near or in the same socioeconomic place. They tend to be people that not always, but often and most often are the same color as our skin. They have similar, maybe not the exact same, but similar journeys of education. And as we look at our communities, and I'm not criticizing or saying this bad, my point is that when we look at our communities where we spend the majority of our time, one of the pieces that is strong and brings us together is our commonality, not our differences. And so as we look at the gospel story today, we're going to realize quite quickly that Jesus redefines community. Let's see how he does that. He's in Capernaum. And Capernaum is a place where he did much of his teaching. We talked a couple of weeks ago about his time in the synagogue there, and the ruins are still there. But he spent a lot of time there. It's right on the Sea of Galilee. So he's in the same place. People had been coming to him. They learned who he was. And in the midst of that, who comes but a centurion? Now, a centurion is a Roman. Romans were the oppressive force. The Romans were the occupied force in their country. They were the oppressors. The Romans were the conquerors. And a centurion was a prominent member of the Roman guard who commanded at the very least 100 soldiers, thus the name centurion. So it's remarkable, number one, that he comes to Jesus with a request instead of a demand. I want you to catch that. He comes to Jesus with a request. That's incredible. But in addition, his request is quite remarkable. He doesn't come to Jesus about a family member. He doesn't come to Jesus about his child or his spouse. He comes to Jesus about his servant. Now, this tells us something about this man. Servants' lives were expendable. Many people died as servants. Their lives were not considered worth much at all. And yet he comes to this rabbi and says, my servant is ill, is dying, and needs your help. Now Jesus sees the honesty and the authenticity in this man, not just his voice, but his mannerisms. And when he senses that, he says immediately, I will go with you, I'll come with you, and I'll heal him. And this is where it really gets interesting. The centurion says, no. I got to be honest with you. I don't deserve to have you under my roof. Now, he's not taking a shot at Jesus and saying, because you're a Jew, you can't. No. He's saying, I don't deserve to have you in my presence any more than we are right now. I'm not one of you, we would go on to say. We would editorialize and say, I'm a Roman. I'm a hated person. I'm the one that's oppressing this country. I'm coming to you with this request. I don't deserve to have you. Not only answer the request, I don't deserve to have you in my home. And then he goes on to say, I'm a commander. I get this. And as a commander, if I tell a soldier to go, he goes. If I tell a soldier to come, he comes. If I tell my servant to do something, they do it. I am a commander like you, Jesus. Meaning this man is already giving us the characteristics and the validity of Jesus, that when Jesus speaks to God and says he's going to do something, in this case healing, it will happen just by his spoken word. And that's when the conversation ends. The man leaves assured that Jesus is going to do what he's asked because of who Jesus is. And Jesus turns and he looks, you ready for this? He looks at the community. And he is about to do something incredible. He is about to expand and revise who and what community is to be and look like. He looks at the community and he says, I have never seen faith like this in you. As a matter of fact, I have never seen faith like this in all of Israel. He is lifting up the hated one, the oppressive one, the head of the occupied force. He's lifting him up as an example of what? Faith. Mind-blowing. And in that moment, Jesus is saying to the community, we got to get bigger. We got to get better. We have to be more diverse. Because if this man can show faith that is greater than our lineage, we've got some work to do. So the challenge for us is expanding our community and expanding it with a diverse experience that challenges us, grows us as we challenge other people. Somewhere about 28 to 30 years ago, Linda and I were in Sumter, South Carolina. We'd taken a group of high school kids on a mission trip. We were in most definitely a predominantly black community. And we had gone there in this socioeconomic poor area to help people with their homes and to work on their homes. It was hot. It was really hot. And this group of all white kids coming into an all black community were coming in to help. Now you have to be careful, because if you come in only as the helpers, only as the rescuers, you can do this self-glory thing, and you become arrogant and say, yeah, see, we came in to help. We did this. But something happened that changed that. There's one house that the roof was just in total disrepair. Now keep in mind, we're not professionals. We had a couple of people with us that knew what they were doing, but the rest of us were just following suit. We had to re-roof this man's house. We had to not just patch holes, we had to re-roof it. It was hot. It was so hot on those days we had to leave midday because our feet would start to sink in to the roofing, and then we would leave and come back later and try and finish the job. It was our last day there, our last evening. The job was finished, and this man invites us to his home. Here comes our youth group. We gather in his meager living space. And he looks at me as the leader of the group. And he says, "May I pray for all of you?" Do you hear that request? "May I pray for all of you?" And I said, "Oh, well, my heavens, absolutely you can pray for us." The kids' eyes were big as golf balls because they were blown away that this man that they came to help was praying for them. So before he begins the prayer, something else began to happen. It began to rain. And I mean rain. And we could hear it on the roof. Now, I don't know what all the youth were thinking, but I, as the leader of this group, was thinking, dear God, don't let this man's roof leak. I was concerned. I was worried about it. I admit that. And it's pouring. And as it pours, this man, now gathered us around in a circle, looks up, hears the rain, smiles, asks us to join hands, and he prayed for us. And it wasn't just a prayer of thank you. I mean, that's wonderful, but it was a prayer for God's protection on our way home. It was a prayer that God would continue to grow within us. It was a prayer as if he was the leader of our group. And I got to tell you, in that moment, he was. And in that moment, our community expanded. It expanded not only because we were with a man who was leading us who was a man of color. It expanded because we were in someone else's home. It expanded because we were in someone else's neighborhood. And not only were we welcomed, but we were included in such a way that we were prayed for and cared for. It's been over 30 years. I've never forgotten that moment. 12 years ago, my then daughter of 10 years old traveled with me to Haiti, Fondwa, Haiti. It was 1 year prior to the earthquake that would happen the following February after we had been there. We went to Haiti, and Fondwa is a mountain community, very meager, not much, certainly not a lot of food to share. And it's a long walk and trip to the equivalent of a kind of market, if you will, where people bring their fruits and vegetables, and you try and buy as much as you can with what little money you don't have. On this particular day, we were invited to a man's home again. And this trip was not one where we were working on people's homes. This particular experience was one to learn about Fondwa and to work with an orphanage there. And we were doing some painting at the orphanage. This is a man who lived in the village, and he said, "I'd like to invite you to my home." His home, as you walked on the main road, if you will, a dirt lane, was down below the road. You could see his roof from up on top. And the only way to get there was this incredibly steep hill. So we went back that night, and then the next morning we went to his house. And there was something there that hadn't been there. Stairs. This man had gotten up early and with this meager shovel had dug out stairs, tiered down stairs, all the way down that hill so that we could walk safely to his house. I've never seen a red carpet experience like this in my life before or since. He dug stairs. And we go into his home. And they served us food. They didn't have food, but they had gotten together food, and it was on an open little fire outside on their little bit stone patio, if you will. It's a very small area. And they divvied up what little food they had and gave it to us. And to be a good guest, of course, you want to share and eat. They would not take it back. After he fed us and shared that with us, he said, "Would you mind if I shared something with the group?" No. And he began to sing. I love to tell the story. And he continued to sing that song. And the chorus, "'Twill be my fame and glory to tell the old story of Jesus and His love." He went into the next verse and the chorus, and before the second chorus was over, we were all in tears. Not tears of sadness for this man in a socio-economic hell. Not tears of sadness because of the life he had to live, but tears of joy and conviction that he saw what we did not. God's glory in all circumstances. And our community was expanded that day as we discovered what it means to be a child of God. My friends, we have to accept the reality that when these experiences happen, the pandemic, the experience in Texas with the power outages and the cold weather, the people that suffer the most are those that are not in our community, but in the lower socio-economic class in our world today. And it doesn't discriminate with color, whites, blacks, Latinos, Hispanics. But they have that commonality of that socio-economic challenge, and they suffer the most. We need to find ways to expand our community, and it's done very simply. Inviting, providing, greeting, and seating. This isn't a 4-step program. It's what we would ask people to do if we were meeting in person. You want to invite someone to church? Well, if you're going to invite someone to our faith community, if we were able to meet in person, you don't just invite them, you provide a way for them to come. And you don't just provide a way when they do arrive, if they found a way here, you greet them. And you don't only greet them and say, "Oh, we're glad you're here, go sit down." You sit with them. So these 4 experiences of inviting, providing, and greeting and seating are a way of saying that if we are going to be serious about expanding our community, not numerically, but diversely, of all colors and races and genders and experiences and sexual orientation, if we're going to expand our community, we must invite with a genuine and authenticity that people want to respond to and not drop the ball by not providing and greeting and seating and being with others that we invite. Oh, this is challenging for us, I know. But I want you to continue on this Lenten season of recovery to understand that as Christ revised what it means to be a community, so must we. And I invite you to find ways to invite, to go outside of our comfort zones of community, not to prove a point, but to be Christ. Not to be Christ to convert others. No. That's wonderful. But just to be Christ and to care. That's the challenge for today. Not homework. It's a challenge for all of us. And I pray it's possible as my community is being expanded over my lifetime. May yours be also. Let's close with our points of connection. They're very simple this week because it's a challenging reality for all of us. 4 points. Point 1, can you name a person beyond your community? 2, identify persons you can and will invite and provide and greet and seat. 3, read the passage that I shared today from Matthew chapter 8, 5 through 13, and Google its history. If you're not going to dive into a book, Google its history to learn just how controversial it was for Jesus to lift up this man as an example. And finally, pray for those who would love to have an invitation to the feast, but have never been invited. And as you pray for those persons, may you pray that you will be willing and courageous enough to invite them. I'm so thankful that you joined us today. I'm thankful for this time together, and I pray that we will experience a renewed healing ourselves by responding to what God has called us to do. So go forth this day knowing that there is a God who loves you unconditionally, who gave His Son to die for us voluntarily, and the Holy Spirit is with us now at this very moment and forever. Amen.